So overall, do you think people are buying that Alex Jones was somehow treated unfairly?
I certainly hope not. Alex Jones is one of the most disgusting people in American public life, an out-and-out grifter who preys upon the gullible and who made considerable amounts of money pumping these falsehoods about Sandy Hook into the public domain. Look, I mean, 20 children were shot dead, their parents with unimaginable grief, and he's going around saying it's a fake, and now it's okay because he apologized. He apologized because he was sued for defamation, successfully, I might add, and ended up with a $1 billion approximately judgment against him. He's a terrible person. I mean, Elon Musk can do whatever he likes, but Alex Jones is just a huckster.
Yeah, I know a lot of people agreeing with you.
And you obsess. The media obsesses about this. I understand.
Hold on a second,
why it does.
The media obsesses about the fact that people tried by force to overturn an election, and more than 100 law enforcement agents were injured, and people were breaking into the United States Capitol.
All bad.
All bad by any stretch of the imagination. Something to concentrate on.
Yes, well. There's lots of things to concentrate to keep the American people safe, Niall. Many things. It's a complicated, mean, and nasty world out there. We should make no mistake about that. I don't for a second apologize for the rioters who broke into the Capitol. I've said this, I don't know, how many times? Dozens and dozens of times since then. Bad. Punish them. They should be punished for the crimes that they committed. In the same way that those folks who committed crimes in Minneapolis and Seattle and took over a small part of the town, they should be punished too. I'm a conservative. I believe in law and order. You should comply with all the laws, and when you don't, you should be punished for that. The law has a solution for those who are bad actors. And January 6th, while it was a bad day for America, I've heard it compared to Pearl Harbor. This is what the media does. This is nonsense to compare it to the men who'd lost their lives that day at Pearl Harbor and the fact that we engaged in a world war. January 6th ends with a duly confirmed president of the United States and a transition. That's a noble ending to that day.
It's a noble ending after an absolute catastrophe for America earlier on that day.
And so my book focuses on the things and outcomes that we did.
The things and outcomes that you did included having the sitting president speak at a rally earlier that day.
Yeah, sure. He spoke at the rally, absolutely.
And incited rioters.
You use your adjective. Fair enough. My book is about the things that I worked on for 4 years. I'd never described January 6th as America's proudest day. I regret that happened. But to say that, gosh, it's a glaring omission is exactly the same storyline of the Russia hoax. It is a misfocus of a set of priorities. It's a deep misunderstanding of the things that deliver good outcomes for the American people.
It's a 400-page book, and there's one sentence about January 6th.
Yep, I'd do it exactly the same way again.
Niall, let me go to that idea of the public will and political will. I mean, Scotland, Scotland's First Minister says the country stands ready, that was his word, stands ready to support King Charles III. But they had previously pushed and pledged for independence. And I'm wondering, and that it was a referendum, by the way, there's going to be a vote held, I think, in October of next year. Is there a likelihood that Scotland might have independence and move towards it?
It's certainly likely. The main party that is advocating that, the Scottish National Party, is the primary party in Scotland right now. But the broader picture here, Laura, is that this is a very disunited kingdom. As you say, the Scots did have a referendum in 2014. That was defeated. The pro-union side won that, but it didn't quell the desire for independence. And in my own native Northern Ireland, Sinn Féin, the party that would hope to remove Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom entirely and create a united Ireland, became the largest party in the Northern Ireland Assembly back in May. So there is clearly a groundswell. These, of course, are very, very old issues. We don't have time here to rehearse the whole vexing history of England and Ireland, or the fact that I think in God Save the King, we should say now, there's a verse that no one sings anymore about rebellious Scots to crush, I think is the line. That whole friction has been present for centuries.
Some House Republicans now reportedly planning to resign en masse from this bipartisan problem solvers caucus as payback to Democrats for voting McCarthy out. And is that serious? Is that consequential?
I mean, honestly, I raise a little bit of an eyebrow about that. That Problem Solvers Caucus has a very noble-sounding name. It has never solved a problem that I'm aware of.
In name only.
And they're theoretical problem solvers. So, I mean, I don't know really that makes a massive difference. I always like to get an oh my from you at 6 o'clock in the morning, Adrienne. But no, listen, I think that it's part of the growing enmity between the parties, but I don't think in isolation it's all that important.
Yeah, we are going to quit this caucus of problem solving where we haven't solved a problem. And that defines almost every lawmaker right now in Congress for much of the American people. Maybe they'll get something done, though, with a new speaker. Niall Stanage. Prior to making the official announcement, which he captivated the media by delaying it time and time again, he was coming in hot. His campaign was trending everywhere. Now it's about as exciting as mayonnaise. Why has he been struggling?
It is about... Sorry, he's flatlining, really, at the moment.
Don't laugh out loud like that. I didn't think it was that funny, but apparently it was.
That was just a metaphor that I wasn't expecting. But anyway,
she talked about it in a way that I believe her side of the story, because she wasn't necessarily even forgiving of herself in telling it. It just was what it was. And I have a better understanding of my origin based on that. So I thank her for that. But when it comes to, my own history, I didn't live my parents' history.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I didn't live in the moments that created me. Right. That is their story. I can only piece it together. So I truly don't know what was fact, what was, I don't know if I told it accurately, because it's still very one-sided. I don't know. Her truth, is her truth.
One thing that you don't mention, even amongst all the very personal things in the book, is something that I'm curious about. Is it written with any lingering hope that its publication would encourage her to get back in touch?
Perhaps. I have to be honest about that. Perhaps. I do concede that maybe there was a lingering hope for that. I don't know if I expect it. I might hope for it. I'm not sure I expect it.
The fact that your father is transgender has been written about, and she has given interviews about it, and so on and so forth. But often it seems to me that gets reduced to sort of, Katy Tour's dad's transgender and they don't get on, as if there is a straight line of causality between those two things. And one of the things that the book really brings out is that that's really not the issue, or certainly not the issue from your perspective.
My dad was very public about the transition, and she gave a lot of interviews about it. And in the interviews, she would often say that I wasn't supportive of it, or I had an issue with the transition, worried that it would hurt my career, etc. And I didn't get involved in any of that because I knew it wasn't true, and also I just didn't want to reveal the real reason, which was that we didn't get along because my dad was abusive.
Hey, John, thanks. I just want to circle back to my colleague, I think it was Nadia, asked a few minutes ago about the civilian casualties, and you said Israel has been receptive to our concerns. And for months, we have heard people at that podium talk about the civilian death toll is too high. It was too high at 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. Around 28,000 people have been killed. What does the White House base the assessment that Israel is receptive to its concerns?
As I said, we have seen them take actions, sometimes actions that even I'm not sure our own military would take, in terms of informing civilian populations ahead of operations, where to go, where not to go. They have taken steps. Now, obviously, those steps, while noteworthy, haven't been enough to reduce the civilian casualties, which is why the president spoke so forthrightly about it yesterday, and why we're going to continue to do everything we can to press the Israelis to be more careful.
But respectfully, he's been talking forcefully about it for a long time, and the Israelis are now have hammered people into this tiny corner in southwest Gaza, tight up against the Egyptian border, where people think there's a looming catastrophe happening. Shouldn't there be more forceful action than just words?
We are working very, very closely with our Israeli counterparts. We've made clear our concerns that we would not support a Rafah operation that did not properly account for the more than 1 million refugees that are down in Rafah. We've been very, very clear and consistent about that.